Good afternoon, Facebook. It's me, HDM Law Comics, coming to you on this Saturday afternoon. Nice and sunny outside. Today's topic, we're going to talk about grading. Grading comics. Should I grade? Should I not grade? And my perspective. So, to get my perspective, you got to go back to when I started, which was 1975. I'm 56 years old, so I've been, have had comics a long time. Back in 75, the way you got comics was got $2, got on my bike, rode to the 7-Eleven. They were in a spin rack, just on a spin rack. Picked 8 because they were a quarter a piece. Paid my money, rolled them up, put them in my pocket, rode home, and then I read them. When I was done reading them, I simply put them in a toy box, which was, in a cool, dry place, not knowing how to care for comics or anything, but just put them in there. And there they stayed up until, I want to say, 3-4 years later when my mother threw them all out. And, I told her, you owe me $40 because I had, 60 at the time. So, whatever it was, but how many it was, I had $40 worth, and I said, you owe me $40 for the comics you threw away, which of course she never paid. But that's not it. When I got back into it, which would be around 1979, when I started working in the summer and had some summer money, at that point in time, I was able to start putting them in long boxes. So I remember I had 1 or 2 long boxes that I would take with me to college because I wasn't about to trust my mother to not throw them out again. And I did that, and then came, boards and bags and stuff like that through the years. So one of the hardest things with the, comics from the 70s is that you never heard of bags, you never heard of boards, you never heard of, caring for them and taking care of them. You just got them because some clerk at the bar, at Crown Books or 7-Eleven or People's Drugstore got some comic books in a shipment next to the Life magazines and Sports Illustrated and just stuck them on the rack. And you got it from the rack and on you went. You didn't, at that point in time, you just didn't pay attention to it. So caring for your comics wasn't any big deal. So then come the 80s. So in the 80s, you got your comics, and then you simply used Overstreet. Overstreet was your guide. That was it. There was nothing else. There was no internet. There was no eBay. There was nothing. It was just you and an Overstreet price guide, and you go to a comic convention, and they had quite a few local at that time, around that time, and you sat there with a dealer, and there was a high price and there was a low price. And usually the dealers would offer you the low price for the book, and they would sell it to you at the high price. And that's how it was done, because you both looked at it and said, looks like a decent grade. So if I had at the time the Amazing Spider-Man 129, he would offer me the low price, which would be $10, and he would sell it to me if I wanted to buy it. High price would have been $24, because you both looked and said, it looks like a good book. This is what it's rated, so this is what we think it is. We agreed upon it, and there would be a price. And that's kind of how it got to. It wasn't until the early 90s when, next thing, so at that point in time, I had, long boxes after long boxes, because, I would tell my, at that point in time, you didn't care about newsstands, didn't want newsstands, you wanted direct, because even then, you could order your comics directly from Marvel or DC. There was no Image, there was no independent stuff, it was just Marvel and DC, as far as I was concerned. So you could order them straight from the publisher. But the problem is, you order them from the publisher, they just came wrapped in a little piece of plastic, and the mailman had them. So the mailman just destroyed them. They all came all bent and ripped and everything. They didn't care because it was just part of their route. It was comic books. It wasn't that big a deal. So you wanted to get them direct from a comic book store. And at the time, that was Big Planet in Bethesda, which was mine. You wanted them to have a direct from someone to pull the comics for you, put them in your mailbox, and when you came and you got them, they were in good shape. Uh, didn't trust the mail. So, that's how you got your comics. And I remember telling Joel was the guy's name. I told him, I said, because I was collecting about 40, 45, 50 titles. And I told him, I said, just, and at that point in time, you try to figure, okay, what's going to be new, what's going to be popular? You want the number ones. So I said, just give me all number ones. Any number one that comes out, just give me those. Put them in my box, and then if I don't want them, I'll just put them back. But that's how I didn't get a lot of number ones. But one of the first questions I asked him was, with all these new stories come out, yeah, Cosmic Boy, Hawk and Dove, Checkmate, and Justice League Quarterly, Justice League International, Great Lakes Justice League. You had tons of titles, and I remember asking him, I said, how do you figure out what's going to be popular, what's going to happen? Not because you figure comic books will be valuable, but so the hope was that you'd find a number one that would become valuable later. And the words he told me, he said, if you collect what you like, then you'll never be disappointed in your collection. And I remember that to this day, and I tell people all the time, they ask me, I'll say, collect what you like, and you'll never be disappointed in your collection, because all the books you have, you like. All the heroes you have, you like. You're not just buying something just because you're hoping that it's going to gain in value. If it does, great. If it doesn't, not a big deal. You still like the books. And so that's how I always worked with my collection. And to this day, that's how I am. So I have 21 long boxes in my garage that I've kept even after the massive sell-off I did to my comic shop about 10, 12 years ago. But the whole thing is that I collected them because I liked them. I read them, bagged them after I read them, and put them in my long boxes. And I've kept them ever since. So I like my collection. So now comes, in the early 90s. And I stopped collecting in 94 because we were pregnant with my daughter. And of course, I can't spend $40 a week on comic books when I've got mortgage, car payment, and diapers coming to be buying. So I had to get rid of that hobby. And along comes CGC. And CGC, I remember because, again, there was no internet, there was no, access that you have like now. And this whole thing of grading. And they held themselves out as a third party that would take away the guesswork of comics. So when you're between you and someone trying to buy, and you're trying to figure out how nice the comic is, because Overstreet at that point in time was, he had mint, near mint, fine, very fine, good, fair, poor. You had those, had the words. So they said to take the guesswork out of what shape your comic is in, we will take that from you, and we will assign it a number, and that number will be the grade, and then therefore you just simply look up the value in the Overstreet with the grade, and there the value of the book. And I can understand why it would seem good at the time to do it, but then then what happened is I'm thinking, you think your book is one grade, and it comes back a different grade. That can affect the value tremendously. Tremendously. I mean, you can lose tons of money because a third person who decides that your book is this. Now they put it out and said, well, we've got a list that we go by. And so I said, so one person sits there and looks at your book and then grades it based according to a chart and subjectively assigns a number to my book, then encapsulates it, puts a number on it, and sends it back. And therefore, I have to live with whatever decision they had. So I tried it, and I tried it with about 5 or 6 books. And I went to this place, Comics to Astonish, up in Columbia. And the guy, I had two Amazing Spider-Man 300s. I had an Iron Man #1. I had a Captain America 100 and a Submariner #1. And I sent those up through the Comics to Astonish because I wasn't a member. I didn't know how to do it. So he said he would do it for me, charge me a little fee. So I said, fine, do it. And he sent them up. And, I thought my ASM 300s were really, really in good shape because I had bagged them, bored them, when I bought them and kept them all nice and wasn't didn't do anything to them. And thinking I've got, I got a great book, And then they come back and one is 8.5 and one is 8.0. So I look in the Overstreet, that's killed the value of the book. And I'm just sitting there going, that's just nuts. I don't see anything wrong with the books. So the guy at Comics to Astonish, he says, what I do if I don't get a right grade, I crack it open and I send it back and they regrade it. And, I might get a better grade. And I sat there and I said, so the value of my comic is on the whim of some grader having a good day or not. And if he has a bad day, then next my comic suffers and I get a terrible grade or a bad grade and my value goes plummeting. I no longer have the ability to sit across from someone and say, I think it's near mint, and they say, well, I think it's really, really good, but not near mint. And we work something out. Now it's because some third party decided, for some reason, here it is. Here's your grade. I have no notes. I have nothing to figure this out by or argue with them and say, tell me why you made it this great. But unfortunately, like I say, my daughter got born and I had to leave the hobby. So that was it. So I'm now my Iron Man #1 came back a 6.5. My Submariner came back 6.0, and the Captain America 100 came back a 7.5. So obviously, I'm not happy with those grades either. But it's the nature of the beast. So I theorized. I said, this third party coming in and doing this service, people start relying on that, and then the industry will then become controlled by grading, because no one's going to offer you top money if it's not graded. They're going to sit there and go, if it's not a 9.8, I'm not going to offer you top money because it's not graded. So that's when you have now raw prices and then the graded prices, and they vary a ton. My Amazing Spider-Man 129 here, 9.2, good book, but this is now around $2,700. A 9.8. When I check, you gotta check your guides, and the one I'm using is Comics Price Guide. 9.8 is $5,700. $5,700 for a 9.8 and a 9.2. Oh, right now it's $3,300 according to them. So we're talking a $2,400 difference in 3 grades. 3 grades, not from a 9.8 down to a 6.8. No, from a 9.8 to a 9.2. So averaging, what's that, $900 a grade? So a 9.8 to a 9.6 is $900? It's insane. But that's the industry we have. That's what we have. And so if I want to go to a 9.8, I've got to pony up another $2,400 to get that kind of grade. Now you also have CBCS, is another company that does. You have PGX, and it's also there's some other company out there, because everyone's trying to get into that business to say, okay, well, we won't speculate. We'll just simply grade it for you and charge you money. And so now grading is about $30 an issue, a copy. I mean, including shipping and stuff like that, and more depending on how nice the book actually is, or how So like Amazing Spider-Man 1, yeah, they're going to charge a percentage because they want their cut. Because an Amazing Spider-Man 1 and an 8.0 raw is going to be about 50,000, and an 8.0 graded is going to be 80,000. So CGC is going to go. You don't expect us to do that for $30, do you? We're going to give you a $30,000 increase in the value of your book for $30. No, they will charge you a percentage because they want their handout, and they're going to say we deserve that because you're not going to get that $30,000 any other way without our grade, and that's what they've done. Right or wrong, not my issue. It's just one of those things where it's the nature of the beast. So when you sit there, and I'm on quite a few of these Facebook forums, and I remember one guy said, he said, I have a run of 400 Amazing Spider-Man books. Should I get them graded? And the first responses he got were, well, grade the keys. Grade the keys, because he says, I'm new to the hobby. I've had these books forever. Now I'm trying to decide, I think about selling them. Should I grade them or should I not? And so everyone was going back, grade the keys, and everything. And so I wrote back to him. I said, two questions I have to ask before I answer that. I said, first question is, what 400 do you have? Do you have 1 through 400? Or do you have like 300 to 700 or to 800? Or which ones do you have? Because that's going to really impact, the pricing. And do you want to sell them, or do you want to just keep them in your personal collection? He wrote back that he has Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 400. So I said, and he said, he doesn't know if he wants to sell them or not. So I told him, I said, everyone's telling you these things about $30 a book. Oh, absolutely not. If you got the early ones from 1 to 150, and they're in really good shape, CGC is going to charge you an absolute mint to do it. If you honestly think their 8.0s are better, you will be paying major money to get even one graded, okay? Especially the Spider-Man 1, because they're going to have their hand out, and they're going to know it's going to cost you some real money. So that's a major cost to do it. But if you want to maximize your money, you have to do it. But it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. And, he thanked me for the advice, and, he's got a big decision to decide. But what got me was that all the responses he got, no one asked that information. Because that makes a big difference. If I've got issue 598, even if it's a 10.0, it's not going to be anywhere close. It's going to be $30 to grade. But you got a number 1 through 129 or 200 in that good a shape. The prices of those. Oh yeah, you're going to spend a ton of money getting those graded. But so the issue now is because I've got 2 books, 2 Hulk 377s, one in my garage, and one I got from one of Manny and Chino's auctions. And I'm sitting there going, which one do I grade? So I'm sending both off to CGC to see what they come back. My garage, will it be better, or will Manny and Chino's be better? I don't know. But this is where it's going to make a difference. We will see what happens when, and I presume it'll be the same grader that'll do it. And we'll see what happens. I also have two Batman the Killing Jokes that I just sent out to CGC, both in pristine condition, absolutely pristine condition. Nothing should be wrong with them. But you'll see what happens. I don't know. Um, but the decision to your decision to grade, spend the money to grade a book, has to come down to what's your angle. If you plan on selling things, I know that a lot of people won't grade them at all. I have a lot of older issues. I mean, that thing now is I try to get into the 12 centers, Golden Age or Silver Age, and get quite a few of those. And I have a lot of those raw. So the issue is, do I grade any of those or not? And I have X-Men 4 that I got from Manny and Chino, one of their auctions. And, they said it might come back 0.05 or 1 at best. Press, clean, and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there going, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. But there are a lot of books that are old. And when I've been looking at the research between Go Collect, Comic Price Guide, Overstreet, usually it doesn't pay to grade unless it's going to be a 7.0 or better. Other than so, most of these I'm just keeping them raw because I don't want to spend a whole ton of money getting them graded. The latest shipment I sent out to CGC, I sent 35 books to CGC at a price of about $700 to $800 to get them graded and coming back. And I have 5 books out to CBCS, which is going to be about $150 to get them graded because I'm doing verification of the signatures because CGC will not verify them. CBCS will. So it's costly. It's costly, and my decision is to do 10 a month to send out, get graded, and come back because as I find more in my garage, we'll see. But when you sit down and try to decide in your collection what to grade, and you see my slabs. I mean, I've got quite a few slabs. And while I've told people I'm not opposed to selling them, I don't have them because I want to sell them. I have them because I like them. And so therefore, if I grade something, I want to keep it in the condition that it's in. I want to, and hopefully it gets a good grade because then I know it maximizes value. And it's just a nice book. So that becomes the reason I do them. I don't do them because I plan on selling them or put them up or anything like that. They're good books, and I want to keep them and preserve them and protect them best I can. So that's what I do. So that's my little bit of history, and you'll see that because I'm the age I am, I look at things differently. I'm 56, so I'm considering myself an OG when it comes to